Hello. You have joined the secret stream. No, there was no announcement this was happening, but I'm an adult, so I do what I want, and that includes streaming when I want. So we're going to have a impromptu live stream today, and it can also be like a Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask those today. If you don't have any questions, we're going to be talking about how to use the particle uro. Hopefully the stream works today. Let's see who's here. Small, I saw you in here first. Welcome. Cosma, Jajongsby, I am Ben, Ariel, Russell, Keith, Becky, Vey off script, Lexica. See who else is here. Sue Amazing, Shell, NAJ, Brittany, and Sun Sun. I'm not going to read everyone's names, but I figured I'd read a few. Yeah. Going to be concentrating hard. Nice. Welcome. Yeah, we've got... I've had a very busy week. I have some more things I want to share about the podcast that will have to wait until the next update. There probably will be one more update before the actual podcast starts. I'm hoping to film something. I'm hoping to do a test in a few days just to make sure the equipment and everything's working. Not filming the podcast yet. But yes, right next to me is the full set. Kind of cool. I'm looking forward to showing it to you guys. But in the meantime, the other thing that's going on is, if you saw my recent YouTube posts, I'm going to be doing another an analysis. Is that the word? Yeah. Video series where I analyze the members of the group Monsta X. First time ever hearing of them, like when I did the poll over on my Patreon page, and I counted up, how many people suggested which members and, likes and everything like that. And, Monsta X had among the top 4 of the most recommended groups that I analyze. And then I put a vote of those top 4, which were selected from Patreon, onto my YouTube page. And most of you picked Monsta X. So I literally Googled them for the first time today. And yeah, that also, I'll be working on that sometime soon. 저는 바네사입니다. Welcome. 어서 오세요. So we're going to be doing something a little bit differently this time, because it's not a regularly scheduled class. We're going to be reviewing something that I've taught before in multiple live streams. I've done a live stream all about uro, how it's used to mean using. Like, I wrote it 연필로, with a pencil, or like 편지로, like by letter, or like 카메라로 찍었어요. I filmed it with a camera, like using, or like 자전거로, like using with, on, like that sort of using meaning. But uro actually has a lot of uses. In fact, there are, I'd say the most common uses, there are 4 really common uses. And those ones I actually put on my cheat sheet. So if you download my free markers and particles cheat sheet, that's on my Patreon page. Again, completely free. You do not have to pay anything to get it. That has the 4 most common ways to use uro, but there are a few more. I think I counted like 7 regular ones. There are more though, but like there are more than 4, but 4 are the ones that you'll see most commonly. So I figured we could do a kind of a review of some of those today. But before that, if you have any questions, now's a good time. And also, I guess during the stream, we can also do some questions, but Hulk Hobbs says, never caught a stream. Welcome to your first stream. This is not a class stream though. So if this is your first stream, it's an odd one to join, but it'll be okay. Normally we do classes 2 weeks in a row, and then the 3rd week is a break. So this isn't a stream, a class day, but it is a stream regardless. We're just not doing a class, but I kind of am doing a class, but it's not a class. So it's not a regular stream. India, it's 2:30 a.m. What are you doing? Billy, why did you stop using the background images? Because the main reason is it just took a lot of time to prepare them for the lessons. Sometimes I was spending more time preparing that background image, either searching for one that looked interesting and finding one that the angle matched, or sometimes making them myself. I'd sometimes spend more time doing that than actually preparing for the lesson itself. That's the main reason. I have a bunch of little excuses why I don't, but that's the main reason, really. Other excuses would be I couldn't use the color green. Anything that I had that was green would be transparent, including my whiteboard erasers, which were usually green. I had some green props sometimes, green colors on my books, but that's the real reason. It just took a lot of time to prepare. But I do use them, and you'll see them again sometimes. I have some stuff planned. You'll be seeing them again for live streams. And of course, for my regular videos, I use them all the time, but my first stream was 20th anniversary. Oh, okay, cool. 20th anniversary. Yeah, that would have been back in May, I think, before I went to Korea for this year. I had a TOPIK 1 exam. What do you recommend to focus on after taking it? You're trying to get TOPIK 2, and if you're preparing for TOPIK, my recommendations for a student are completely different than what I would recommend to someone who's trying to get better at speaking Korean. TOPIK is not the regular Korean you're going to use when you go to Korea. It's not the Korean you're going to hear or you're going to use yourself. With exception being if you're going to Korea to do like classes or you're planning on watching the news and stuff like that, then sure, it's that kind of Korean. If you want to prepare for the TOPIK, the best thing you could possibly do is find the TOPIK tests, the most recent TOPIK tests you can, at least the older ones, and practice by taking those. That's it. TOPIK has information and resources for that on their website. You are preparing for a test of Korean for the TOPIK. Like you're not, it doesn't test you on how well you speak Korean or how much you understand. It would be really hard to do that. It tests you on how well can you take the TOPIK test, which does include, it is a Korean, but it's their version of which words, which style of grammar, which stuff do they want to use that they feel will challenge you to really check where your Korean is. So you just have to prepare by taking lots of TOPIK practice tests, and anything you don't understand in there, that's when you would go with either a tutor or you'd find resources online, check a dictionary. If you really can't find anything, search Reddit. That's when you would go off and research stuff would be based on what questions and sentences and stuff you don't understand in the test that you're preparing. But I wouldn't just go off and try to learn everything, because you're going to encounter tons of stuff that is very common and very used in real life, but isn't useful on the TOPIK, or is less than useful compared to other things you could be learning. Now, I've never taken the TOPIK test, so my recommendations for this comes from other people who I've talked with who have taken the test. But yeah, that's what I'll say about it. Lexica, 보고 싶었죠. Although usually I'll say it's more common to use the subject marker with 보고 싶다. Like if you say, I mean, it's fine to use both, but if you were to say, like 너를 보고 싶어, it's literally saying I want to see you. It could mean I want to miss you, since they say that as it's the same thing in Korean, but it has more of a feeling toward I want to see you. Like I want to see you. Oh, I haven't seen you in so long. I want to see you again. Like that sort of see you. Whereas 보고 싶다 with the E or 가 marker, like 너가 보고 싶어, is has less of the feeling of I want to see you and more of a feeling of like I miss you. Like I miss you. I miss something really much, and that's you. It has less emphasis on like the see you version of it. They're both okay though. 수원에서 반드시 먹어봐야 되는 식당 아세요? 수원. I have to be careful about recommending specific places because some of them are like not too far from where I sometimes stay. Although I usually stay in a different place around Suan each time I go. Let's see. Where can I recommend that's like good? Okay, there are a lot of restaurants in the neighborhood of Suan Hwasong, specifically the palace. If you search for this, the areas around the Suan Palace, because they had a temporary palace for the king that's built in Suan, and it's along Suan Fortress. There's a lot of stuff around Suan's Fortress. If you go to Suan Fortress, you'll see everything. Next to there are a lot of is where a lot of Korean tourists go. Like foreign tourists go there too sometimes, but you'll really see a lot of Korean tourists go there. In that area is a place called the Tongdak-gori. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, Suwon Tongdak-gori. Tongdak is like a chicken, and Gori is a street. So it's literally like Suwon Chicken Street. I made a video about where I mentioned it before. That street is all chicken restaurants. And it's not only, they don't only have chicken there though. There's some other stuff there, but anything around that area is where a lot of people will go to get meals, and you'll have some good options around there. But like, oh, this restaurant's the best in the world. There really isn't anything like that. It's usually like, oh, that place is really good. Oh, that place is really good. And I've been to that area so many times and eaten so many things around the area. I haven't had any like bad experiences eating anything that I thought, oh man, I got to tell people stay away from here. So I think if you go around the chicken street, any like within a block, any direction in there, you're going to be fine. Other places are outside of the Suan station, the main Suan station. If you go out of the station, there's like a street area with a bunch of restaurants. You'll see it easily. There's like in front of Suan station, there's a big bus stop area. Right by the big bus stop area, there's just a big street that goes down. People are walking on it. That has a lot of restaurants in there too, which is kind of also like a hub for people to hang out, is by Suwon Station. That's where I'd say to start. Kiwi Panda actually asks a question related to what I wanted to kind of talk about today, and that is using uro. So Kiwi Panda is asking, what's the meaning of adding 로 to 진짜 and 정말? Well, it does two things. This 로. So, okay, I'm just going to keep it simple, I'm not going to separate all the individual uses of 로 in this lesson. I'm not going to say this is the use where it's used to mean this for everything, because there are so many. But this one, though, you'll see 로 used a lot after nouns, and its job is to change something into an adverb. So one of its uses is you can take a noun and attach 으로 or 로. That's 으로 after a consonant, or 로 after a vowel, or after the letter lir. It changes that noun into an adverb, and that means you can use that noun to describe a verb. In this case, 진짜. 진짜 is a noun. That means real, like something's real. It can also mean genuine, like 진짜 아디다스 가방이요. Like it's a real, authentic Adidas bag, kind of like that. So you can use it as normally as a noun. It means something's authentic or real. But if you attach 으로, now it can only be used as an adverb. So you could say like 진짜로 봤어요. Like I saw them. Adverb, for real. So like in English, we might say it would change it to mean for real. Like, I did it for real. I saw it for real. I made it for real. Like that's sort of, it's talking about how you did a verb. You didn't just do it like fake. You didn't make it up, but you did it for real. Or something is for real. But with the word 진짜, it already has that meaning by itself because it means authentic or real. So you don't need it. It's optional. So you could say 진짜요, 진짜로요. They both mean really, but the first one's like 진짜요, like really, and the second one's 진짜로요, for real, like they really did that. The usage though is pretty much the same, just that the 로 at the end makes it into an adverb. But if you're just replying to something like really, either one's fine. But know that the one that's an adverb is more emphasis on the fact that it's like really regarding some sort of action that happened. Not just, is that authentic? Is it real? Like if you were to hold up an Adidas bag, I don't know why I'm using Adidas as an example. Nike bag. Okay. And you wanted to say it's this is real. You can't say 진짜로요 because that means for real. It's like for real what? Like I really what are you talking about? But you could say 진짜예요. Like it is real. But you can't say 진짜로요. Cuz that's like real for real, right? Like you could say it's real, but not it's for real. I guess you can in English. That destroys my argument. But you get what I'm saying? Like you can do something for real, but you can't be something for real. So typically it would just be 진짜예요. 정말, however, is a little different. 정말 does not have that meaning of authentic. So you wouldn't say 정말 아디다스 가방이요. You can, but it doesn't mean it's an authentic bag. It means really it's an Adidas bag is what you're saying. You're just saying 정말, like really. So this one is also, you would use 정말로 for an adverb, like someone really did something or really thought something, and 정말 just for like really by itself. Or you could ask someone, 정말로요? Like for real? Did they really do that? Do you really think that? Like that? So the really short answer to your question is, what's the difference? Nothing. But if you want to split hairs, the 로 one is an adverb version. Oh, and I did see a donation. Don't worry, I didn't forget you. I just didn't want to lose my train of thought. Who is that? Lexica. I thought it might be Lexica because I knew it had just passed minute 7. And I'm like, I wonder if Lexica's sending something. Thank you, Lexica. And you wrote a message. You said, minute 7 was having a lazy Sunday afternoon on the sofa, but is happy to spend some time studying instead. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I meant, did you miss us? Yes. That it would still apply. You usually would say, 우리 보고 싶었어요? Like you missed us. You don't necessarily have to say 우리를 like with the object marker. For regular speech, it's fine to leave it off. I will seek the chicken street. I recommend the chicken street. And if I recommend anywhere in the chicken street, there are 2 places. There's one that is Suan 왕갈비 chicken. When you go in the street, there's like, it's really short. It's not that big, but there's an intersection in there. And on the corner of an intersection is one that says Suan 왕갈비 chicken. And it has a sign that says like, we only prepare 200 chicken per day or something like that. And when they're sold out, we close. You'll see a sign there. There'll be like pictures of it having been featured on TV. I've been there twice, 3 times. Yeah, it is really good. Really good. I would get there. And then there's another place that's one of the oldest chicken restaurants in Korea. In fact, I don't know if it is the oldest, but it's been open since like 70 something. 72? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, it's been open for a long time. So that's like a traditional style Korean. If you want to try like what did Korean chicken used to be like in the past, you can try there. Personally, I think modern chicken is better than the traditional type of Korean chicken, but there are some times when I feel like the old style because the new style of chicken is like it's sweeter, it's spicier, it'll be more like crispy, like with seasoning, but like it's still crispy. And the older style is more just like standard deep fried or like deep fried and then marinated. But it's good. It's just a different type. So sometimes you might want the older style. And they have a restaurant there as well in the same street. 진짜로요? Yeah. Sun says, I have a question. What does 혹시? Okay. What you're talking about, I'll remove this here. You're asking about the word 혹시. 혹시 is, if you're talking about in regular conversation, this is used to mean by chance. Or someone happens to. Like, do you happen to know 혹시 something 아세요? By chance, 혹시 어저께 김철수 씨를 못 보셨어요? by chance, did you not see Mr. Kim Chorsu yesterday? Like, did you happen to, by chance? It is useful, although you can translate it this way. You don't necessarily have to translate it at all. It gives your sentence this feeling, though. So again, you don't have to translate it this way. You might see it in a sentence and it's not translated and think, oh, they forgot to translate it. It's more of a feeling of like, by chance, I'm wondering. And it serves a really important job in regular Korean conversation to make your sentence, it's a question, to make your question sound extra soft. So instead of asking a direct question like, do you know this? Like, hey, excuse me, do you know where the closest McDonald's is? It's like, by chance, excuse me, do you think you might know where the nearest McDonald's is? It has that, do you think you might, like, sort of extra softening to a question. So if you want to ask a question and you want to sound like extra soft, I wouldn't go so far as say like it's extra polite necessarily. It could be, if, you know, sounding extra soft can also sound more polite, but it does give a softer feeling to your sentence. So a question, it makes your question a lot softer, less direct. I want to watch the live, but I got to go buy bread. Lynette says, I believe there are location sites from the K-drama Lovely Runner in Suan. I'm sure there are tons and tons of K-drama filming spots in Suan, because there is a filming studio, although I think they closed it, but there was the KBS filming studio was in Suan. I never went there, but I passed by there all the time. And they do a lot of filming in Suan. Okay, let's see if I missed their questions before. Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit more about the particle uro. So I already gave you one usage of it, and that is for turning a noun into an adverb, but it has a lot more uses. So let's talk about the next one. If this is your first live stream, just reminding you, this is just more of a casual live stream today. The normal live streams I do will actually have like full worksheets that you can download for them. And I have a separate live stream about all of these things in detail if you want, but this is kind of just an overview, like it's a bonus live stream. So one of the most common uses of uro is to say to. Like, if your Korean friends ever invited you to Korea, they probably didn't say, like, A. A is the normal particle that means, you should know this, but A is the normal particle that means to. Like, 한국에 가요, I am going to Korea, like to, just directly to. uro also translates as to, so you can say 한국에 가요 or 한국으로 가요. And the difference is, to keep it simple, while it has the same translation to mean to, of course, it doesn't have the additional uses of a to mean like by with passive speech, or like and connecting verbs, or of course to say something is or someone is at or in a location. It doesn't have any of those uses, but what it does have is the feeling of some sort of movement or something going in the direction of, like, aiming at something. It has that nuance. So this one is actually preferred most of the time when someone is traveling or moving or going somewhere. You would use uro to say toward. So it's like facing or toward. Like you can say 왼쪽 would be like left, 오른쪽 would be right. So you can say like 왼쪽으로 꺾었어요. Like 꺾다 would be to turn. So like I turned to the left. You wouldn't say 왼쪽에 꺾었어요. You would say 왼쪽으로, because it's not talking about like a destination, like a direct necessarily that you're going. Like this would be more for like a destination sort of meaning. Like that's the directly place you're going. This implies that that's the goal. Like that's where you're intending to go, or that's where some action is pointed toward. That's where it's intending. Like think of it kind of like someone like pointing at something. So it's common if your Korean friends were to invite you to Korea, they're not going to say like 한국에 오세요. They might if they are trying to really simplify the Korean for you. They're going to say 한국으로 오세요. 한국으로 와요. Come to Korea. But again, it doesn't mean like like you're just directly going to Korea. It has more the feeling of like move your head toward Korea and travel in that direction. That's the nuance that this gives. So it's kind of like you have the goal or intention of facing something or being in the direction of something. But really simply, you can just think of it as meaning like toward. Like, what direction are you going toward? Where are you going toward? Let's take another couple questions. Is it me or does it sound like oodles? What is oodles? Oh, oodle? Oodles? I don't know. And sept as well. It's not 혹시, but it's 혹시 with the o. Oodle. It indicates a starting point. No, that would be 에서. 에서 would indicate a starting point, like from a place. Or 부터. Buto would also be a lot of that too, like from somewhere. Yeah, so why YouTube's really not happy with my screen though. Okay. So anytime you're using any sort of motion verb, this is going to be much more natural for regular conversation. A motion verb is any verb that shows motion. So these, most of the time, not all of them, but most of these will end with 가다 and 오다. There are others too. But most of these, like over 99% of these, will be 가다 and 오다. So something 가다, something 오다. And that doesn't just mean the two verbs 가다 and 오다. There are many other verbs that use these. Like 걷다, to walk, would be 걸어가다, to walk towards somewhere, to walk to somewhere. Or 걸어오다, someone walks here. 나가다, 나다 meaning to go out. So like 나가다, to go out somewhere. Or 나오다, to come out from somewhere. So any of these that have 가다 and 오다, it's going to be more natural to use 으로. 이사 is to move. You could say 이사하다, like the act of moving, like someone moved somewhere. But it's common to say if you moved to a location, you'll do 이사가다 or 이사오다, like someone, 우리 동네 이사 왔어요, like someone moved into our neighborhood. 가다 오다, it's going to say 으로. 우리 동네로 이사 왔어요. They moved to our location. They moved to our neighborhood. 집으로 가요. Someone's going home. Like that. Okay, I'll leave this up for just a minute. 이쪽으로 가요. To go this direction. 쪽 would be a place as well. Okay, any questions about this? This one is the most basic way. The most basic way to use 으로. There are a lot, but this is probably the one that you're going to see most often. You probably already knew this, but okay. The next one, this is also another one that you already know. I do want to review this just a little bit though, and that one is the one that means using. It's actually pardon my writing. It's actually just for any sort of means by which something happens. So we would say using in most cases, but a lot of times in natural sentences, you're going to say like by or with. Let me see what other, do, I think. Like if you're using like a tool or a machine or a channel like doing something via or via or whatever, through, like any sort of those meanings, anything that you're using, we'll use 으로. So, if you wrote a letter by hand, your hand was the means by which something happened, writing the letter. So, I wrote the letter by hand. Pardon my writing, I'm just doing it sideways here. I wrote the letter by hand. I want you to make this sentence. If this is too easy for you, I apologize. But for those of you who are kind of confident with writing a little bit of Korean, give this a try. How would you make the sentence, I wrote the letter by hand? I'll give you some words. So hand is 손. Letter is 편지. And to write is the verb 쓰다. Now, you will need to make this into the past tense somehow, but the verb itself is 쓰다. So go ahead and give it a try. If you miss parts of this, we'll work on it together after. I'll give you a minute just to kind of try it out on your own first. 핸드폰으로 시청하고 있어요. Very nice, Keith. Very nice. Sue Amazing says, was the object marker used to mark the goal? Yes. I have a video about that in my Korean FAQ series. That one's for a goal or a final destination meeting. Okay. 편지를 손으로 썼어요. Nice, Valeria. Perfect. Perfect. 편지를 손으로 썼어요. 편지를 손으로 썼어요. 편지를 손으로 썼어요. Perfect, Heath. Nice. If you haven't gotten the sentence, don't worry. You can read other people's sentences and kind of figure it out. Like I said, if you don't know this, then it just means you haven't learned it yet. So it's totally normal. And if this is too easy for you, I apologize as well. Lexica, perfect. See, 편지를 썼어요. Shella, small typo, but your sentence is good. 손으로 썼어요. 저는 편지를 손으로 썼어요. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, let me write the sentence here. You could, or you don't have to, start the sentence by saying 저는, I. 저는 편지를. 편지 would be the letter. 손 is your hand. 으로. So 쓰다 becomes 서 in the 요 form. So 썼어요. Wrote. So I wrote the letter 손으로. So you would translate this as by in English, by hand. I wrote it by hand. But literally, you also could think of it as like using my hands. Using my hands. I wrote the letter. Literally, that's what you're saying. Again, it's any sort of means by which you do an action. So, you could see something with your eyes. 눈으로. 눈으로 봤어요. 제 눈으로 봤어요. I saw it with my eyes. Or you can write something by hand. Like the translation is going to change a lot. There are a lot of ways that this can get translated. 인터넷으로 주문했어요. I ordered it on the internet. So by, with, on, like there are a bunch of ways that you can translate it, but I want you to think of it as using. Because if you think of it as using, it'll translate literally pretty well every time. So I wrote a letter using my hand. I wrote a letter by hand. So those are the two most common ways you're going to see 으로 used. There are others, but those are the two most common. So if you are not yet comfortable with those two, I wouldn't worry about these other ones yet, but it does get used for a lot of other ways. What is this? Uro has another usage. Again, the two we did for toward and using are going to be the most common that you're going to see. Focus on those ones first. Don't stress about these other ones yet. But another common way that uro gets used is when you are choosing something. Now, you could take a noun and you can do uro after it, just like before. And if you just have this part of a sentence, you don't really know what it's being used for. Is this being used for like toward the noun, or is it being used for like using the noun? You have no way of knowing. But if what comes after is a verb that has to do something with choosing something, then it's this one that's used for choosing. For example, a really common one is just the verb hada. Hada, to do. And uro means to pick something, like not literally to choose. There are other verbs that say like 이거를 선택했어요, 이거를 골랐어요, 이거를 뽑았어요. Like I selected this, I chose it, I picked it. There are other verbs for that. What this is used for is choosing, and the nuance it has is kind of like in English how we say, I'll go with that one. You could say, I choose that one. But the emphasis when you say go with isn't that you're selecting it, it's that you're thinking about selecting it, if that makes sense. Like if you say, I think I'm going to go with number 4, like that. Are you saying, I think I'm going to choose number 4 necessarily? Is it the exact same thing as saying, I think I'm going to choose number 4? I think I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to choose. It generally has the same meaning, but the nuance is a little bit different, right? The nuance is you're kind of going toward that. Like that's like you're picking it, right? But it's like your choice is like in that direction. This is a nuance difference, okay? The meaning is the same. You can say, I'm going to pick it or I'm going to go with it. But the nuance difference of this form has the feeling of you are turning like toward that item, like your mind is going toward that item. If this is a bit complicated, don't worry. It's actually really simple how it's used. All you do is you take uro after any sort of noun. Although to be fair, uro is used after a noun all the time. But anyway, uro after a noun, and then you follow it with some sort of verb that is either hada by itself, to do, like I'm thinking of doing, like that, or a verb that has to do with picking something or choosing something. So let me give you an example. The most common way that you're going to use this is ordering something at a restaurant. So 주다 means to give, and this is not left like this. You'll change it to a polite form, so you can say like 주세요 or like 주시겠어요. I'll just give you two examples that are really common. I would just write these down. Something uro 주세요 or something uro 주시겠어요. If you want to make it a question, this is would you give me please, and this is please give me. They're both polite, but this one's like more polite even. Like, do you think you could please give me? 메뉴판을 주세요. So normally you might say give me something, like 물 주세요. Please give me water. 물 주시겠어요? Could you give me some water please? 고기 더 주세요. Please give me some more meat. 물로 주세요. What does this mean? So we have two sentences. The first sentence is, so we're asking for water. 물을 주세요. The next sentence is 물로 주세요. Both of these ultimately are asking the person to give you water, but the nuance is very different. The first one, 물 주세요, 물을 주세요, literally just means please give me water. So if you say this to someone, you're going to get water. If you go to a restaurant, they say, what do you want? 물 주세요, please give me water. Okay, the end. 물로 주세요 has the same general translation, like please give me water, but the nuance, this is why I said focus on the first two about toward and using, because these ones are more about nuance differences and not necessarily about like meaning differences. Remember, the nuance of this is that you're choosing something. So when you say 물로 주세요, it means that you've thought about it and that is what you are going with. So 물로 주세요. This implies there are lots of choices. So when you say 물로 or whatever you want, maybe you want to get a coffee, 커피로 할게요. I'll do coffee. What it implies is there were other choices, but I've decided to go with water. Please give me that. 저는 물로 주세요. Make mine water, please. I'll go with water. Please give that to me. The udo means that something has been chosen among multiple options. That's the nuance difference. So, anytime you see like someone asking for something, or you're going to do something, or you're going to pick something, it could be this meaning of udo, which means you're choosing something. I'll give you another sentence. I'm just going to leave this up for a second so you can write it down. I'll give you a couple more sentences for this one. 피카츄로 뽑을 거예요. They actually say 피카츄로 정했어. 정했어요. I'm not sure if they use the you or not. I haven't watched it. I think it's 피카츄. 너로 정했다. That's what they use. 피카츄, 너로 정했다. 정하다 is to set or like decide. And then no, like I decided to go with you is what it means. It doesn't mean like I picked you, I selected you. It's I am going with you. I selected in your direction, kind of like that. 이걸로 주세요. Yeah. 이걸로 is the same as 이것으로. But 것으로 when it's shortened to 것, 이것 when it's shortened to 이거, 이거, or any sort of call word, so like 이, 그, and 저, become 걸 when you attach the particle 으로. So you don't get 이거로, you get 이걸로. Same for 이, 그, and 저. Or any sort of call. It could be 다른 call. Something else, something different. 피카츄를, yeah. Did you know there's a, you know you can actually order and consume Pikachu in Korea? I kid you not. Ask your Korean friend about it if you don't believe me. Ask them if they like eating Pikachu. How many Pikachus they've eaten in their life. You'll be surprised. The answer will be more than one. Okay. Let me give you another sentence. If you want to say that you have selected something, you are going with something, then I recommend using 으로 after a noun. And then the form, you can write this down. 할게요. Now, this isn't the only way you can say it. You can also do like, 하겠습니다, if you want to be formal. Or 역시 something 콜라로 하는 게 나을 것 같아가지고. You can like make it longer. So I'm not going to say this is like a grammar form by itself. But a really common way to finish a sentence that uses this is 할게요. Notice that it's 게요, but it's pronounced as 게. 할게요. Due to sound change rules. 저는, so me, I, 콜라. It's just any sort of cola, like Coca-Cola or whatever. 저는 콜라로 할게요. So, I will. 할게요 is I'm gonna, I will, I choose. I'm going with Coke. So, I'll have a Coke, is what I mean. 저는 콜라로 할게요. So, I'm gonna just go with Coca-Cola. If the waiter or waitress is taking your order, you could say, 콜라로 주세요. Like, yeah, I picked cola. Please give me that. Or, 저는 콜라로 할게요. Like, I am going to pick Coke. Either one. Doesn't matter. They have different nuance. Are you asking them to give it to you or just saying, this is the one I picked? And hey, you do what you want with that information, but this is the one I picked. You could talk with your friend. Like your friend's like, oh, what are you going to get? 난 콜라로 할게. I'll get a cola. Like that. And then when you talk to the waitress or waiter, 저는 콜라로 주세요. Like that. I'll leave this up for a minute and I'll do one more sentence. How does it taste? It's good. I had a one Pikachu before in Korea. 콜라. 너로 정할게요. 너로. You would use the, if you wanted to imitate the I choose you from Pokemon, it's the 로 form, just like this. Does 로 instead of 를 when choosing something imply less certainty or maybe more swayability? So, again, it implies that there was a choice that was made by a person. Someone chose something. And that in order to choose it, there were many options. So, that's why I think go with is a good way to think of it. Because you could say like, I think I'm going to go with this. Or you can say, I think I'm going to order this. And it has the same literal meaning, right? Like if you are on Amazon, let's think of a better example. What other websites are there you can order stuff from? The store, the internetstore.com, okay? This is the new store. Billy's merch store. I have new merchandise, actually. I have a bunch of new designs that are on my merch shop now, if you want to check them out. So you go to the Billy website. And you could say, I ordered 3 Billy shirts. You could say that, right? Or you can say, I went with 3 Billy shirts. And the meaning is the literal meaning is the exact same thing, right? You ordered 3 shirts. Whether you say I went with, I went with 3 shirts, or I ordered 3 shirts, it's the same thing. They're going to show up at your door. You're getting charged for 3 shirts. The nuance difference, though, I went with 3 shirts. I know I'm not an English teacher, but the nuance difference is implying like I decided that, right? It was a choice. So the end result is the same. You ordered 3 shirts, you paid for them, but the way to express it is different. Now you're not just saying I ordered them, I clicked on the button and ordered 3 shirts. You're saying I made a choice and I decided to go with, among the other options, I decided to, that's what you're saying. So it's a nuance difference. Indicates something. Oh, I got a donation. Let's check. Whoa! Ad Astra! Wow! Ad Astra, how come you're leaving though? You gotta stick around. You just drop in. Ad Astra. Ad Astra, you missed. I was also mentioning the podcast briefly. I was saying I'm gonna be filming something, a test for the podcast this week. And I also mentioned before that the set's all done, but you missed that. Thank you. You have to go to your own class. Good luck with that. Thank you. CDVS says 빌리는 카메라와 마커들로 좋은 스트림을 만들었어요. Okay. One thing I will give you advice for that is 방송. 방송 is what they use for a stream. 방송. I mean, there are other words you can use too. 방송 is the most common. I think you can barely see the green. I think that's not Ad Astra's first time doing that though. Coming in the stream, dropping a donation and being like, gotta split. Thank you again. 감사합니다. So, using uro has that nuance. Again, this is a nuance difference of a choice having been made. I have one more sentence for you though. Let's say you're going to buy one of those Billy shirts and you decide, I decided to go with blue. Blue is 파란색. 파란색 means 파란, literally blue, 색, color. So you want to tell your friend that you bought blue. 하다 is to buy. If you were to say 저는 파란색을 샀어요, all you're saying is I bought the color blue. I bought blue. They said, hey, you bought a shirt on Billy's store. What did you get? 뭘 샀어요? 티셔츠를 샀어요. 파란색 티셔츠를 하나 샀어요. I bought one blue t-shirt. The end. But if you wanted to say, well, I went with blue because you're implying that there were other colors and I picked the one that was blue. Like say, oh, I bought a 티셔츠를 샀는데? Like, what'd you buy? 뭐 샀어? 나 티셔츠 샀는데? 무슨 티셔츠? Like, what t-shirt did you buy? I got the 한글 쓰여져 있는 티셔츠를 샀는데, like, 샀어요. I bought the 한글 t-shirt or whatever. 무슨 색으로 샀어? 파란색으로 샀어요. I bought blue, implying I went with blue. Like, that was my choice. You're not just saying I bought blue, but you're saying I went with blue. Again, the nuance difference is what's important. It's the same literal meaning, and you could have made the sentence without knowing this, but you miss that nuance that implies that there was a choice to be made. Like my choice was, well, I decided to go with blue. So like you can say 파란색으로 샀어요. Or that. 파란색으로 샀어요. So like I bought blue. You can still think of it as kind of meaning the same, like toward, like in the direction of. Remember, it's like facing something. Like that's the way I went. I went toward the blue. Is kind of what you're saying, like the nuance. But yeah, it's just a nuance difference that implies there was some sort of choice. The most common way, again, you're going to see this is saying 으로 주세요 or 으로 주시겠어요 at a restaurant when they ask you, like, which of the sides do you want to get with your order, which comes with 2 sides, like that. Or like, which drink do you want to get? Your combo meal comes with a drink. Which do you want? Not a lot of places in Korea have the self-serve soda machines. I've seen a few, but it's not the norm yet. But a lot of places, with the exception of buffets, in a restaurant or fast food place in Korea, when you get a drink, you have to specify what it is and they get it for you and they give it to you. So you have to tell them what you want to get. So like maybe you say, like 3번 세트 주세요. Like give me the number 3 combo or whatever. And they'll say like, 음료는 뭘로 드릴까요? Like what drink should I give you? As in like, which one are you going to have? 저는 콜라로 주세요. Or just 콜라로 주세요, whatever you want to say. That's how you do it. You could say 콜라 주세요, give me cola. Like that's fine too. But if you want to imply like, I'm going to choose, I'm going with, I know there are other options, but I've selected, that sort of meaning is where you'd use 으로. So if it doesn't seem like it's useful to you, again, I think that actually might mean you've got it. It doesn't have to be in your sentence. It just adds that nuance. And you wouldn't have that nuance any other way. Okay, let me check the chat. Maybe take a question before we go to our next usage of 으로. And this stream is only going to go for another like 30 minutes. It's just going to be a short one today. Keith says, wow, I think I will order one of those new shirts. I think my brainwashing is working. I do have some, a bunch of new designs though on the store. I redid the entire store because I liked some of the original designs I did, but some of the designs I had, I was like, wasn't a big fan. So I got rid of them. I made a bunch of new ones. I freshened up all the ones that I did have. I think I did like 8. No, more than that. It would have been like 14 or so new designs. Yeah. I think there's like 14 new designs on the store. Is 방송 only used for live stream? No. 방송 means broadcast. So any sort of broadcast on television or not is 방송. 생방송 is live broadcast. Some people will also abbreviate that to 생방, which is just like a live, same meaning, live broadcast, but they just remove the 송 at the end. Yeah, the 생 means live. So live broadcast, 생방송 or 생방 sometimes. Yes. 저는 자음으로 살 것 같아요. 아, 한글 알아요? Or do you know Hangeul? There are a couple Hangeul ones, and then there's the new design is with all of the Hangeul, the names of the letters, how they're sung in Korean. Like Kanada, Raba, Nama, Basa, Ajachakatapaha. Those are the letters of Hangeul that everyone knows. So there's that. That's also a design. I think I did that. I think I made that just 2 days ago. So that's like one of the newest designs on there. Okay. Okay. The next usage of uro is completely different than what we've done. This one's not toward. This one's not using. This one is acting as, like in the capacity of sort of meaning. What does that mean? Well, most of the time you're going to translate this as just for. I'm sorry, as. You could translate as for as well. As. So, what's the first usage that might come to mind if you think of like acting as? Can you write in the chat? I want to see if like you're following along already or if I need to keep going with this. I'll give you examples though. Heartless asks a question. I think I'll answer this question while you guys are writing some examples. What inspired you to start learning Korean? I've been interested in learning languages my whole life. I started with Japanese. I did that all through high school. I did French in high school. I did Cantonese. I did Mandarin. And I stuck with Korean. I did Japanese for a while, and I had a lot of Japanese friends at school. And I also met a lot of Koreans through them for originally, like they introduced me. There are a lot of Koreans at my school as well. So I got into Korean, and Korean was the first one I actually really got into a lot. And I ended up learning much more Korean than I did Japanese and more than the other languages. So after a certain point, I just realized, like, I mean, I'm not going to get good at all these languages, and I don't want to get so-so at all these languages. I just want to get really good at one of them. So at that point already, I was able to speak Korean pretty well, and I realized, yeah, I'll just stop with the others. So I just decided to stick with Korean only. Yes. To work as a, sure. As a friend, sure. 한국 학생으로 왔어. Yes, Russell. As a student. 직업으로, as a job. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I do want to make it clear, it's not going to be like as every single example. I was trying to think of one that's like obviously not. As if, like it's not the word as, because you know there are so many uses of as that wouldn't be this sort of meaning. But if you mean acting as, like as a friend, as a teacher, as any sort of job, yes, any sort of person, any sort of role. Let me see if there's like a for. Yeah, I'd say a good way to think of this is if it's any role, and we'll come back to this. It doesn't have to be a person, but any sort of role. Like, what is it supposed to be doing? Like, what's its job? What's its role? But let's talk about the easy side first, which is a job, like a person as a teacher. as a student. You can do, it's very simple. 학생 is a student. 학생으로 공부해요. I study as a student. The end. Like, 선생님으로 1년 동안 일했어요. 1년 동안 선생님으로 일했어요. I worked for 1 year. I worked as a teacher. Like, acting as a teacher. If it makes sense by changing it to acting as, you're good. Although, as it's simple enough. A person as. What's another thing we could do? What's another job or as anything we can do? Let me see if I missed any other comments. 학습자로. Yeah, as a Korean learner. I'm at the it makes sense. I'm in the intermediate level as a Korean learner. 직업으로, as a job. Shella, don't get ahead. Don't slow down, Shella. We'll get there, I promise. Slow down. 친구로, yes. 조언할게요. I'll give you some advice as a friend. So we're not going to be talking about like 으로 and 으로서 and 으로서 and all of. There are actually 4 more of those that are optional. But there's optionally you can add 서 at the end of here. We're not going to be talking about those though because that's advanced territory. And you don't need it for conversations. You don't even need to understand it for conversations because it's the same thing. But 으로 is the same thing. So someone gave a good example, like 친구로, like as your friend. 이거 친구로 조언할게요. I'm going to give you some advice, as a friend. 이거 친구로 말할게요. I'm just going to tell you as a friend. Or like 저는 유튜버로, like me as a YouTuber, 한국어를 가르쳐요. I teach Korean as a YouTuber. Any sort of as meaning. Hopefully this makes sense already. Hopefully this is like, oh, okay, that's easy. Done. Next. But there's a little more to it. I mean, if we go back to the meaning of a role that I said, a role. Do only people have a role? Like something that they're expected to do that. That's what they're supposed to do. As that, in that position, as that, in a role. There are other nouns that aren't people that you can also use this with. Like if something has a role, if it's supposed to be this way, or like whatever something's role is. Now, this is a little bit vague to explain because really it's any sort of role. If you think something could be as whatever, and it's not a person, it could still work with this. A really common example, someone in the chat also, was that Shella, getting a little too ahead. But it's really, really common to use these for meals. So, 아침 for morning or breakfast, 점심 for lunch, and 저녁 for dinner. So you can say, pardon my writing, but you know what I'm writing. Okay. 아침으로, as breakfast, as lunch, as dinner. I mean, it still translates. It's not like it has to become a vague translation. So what did you eat as your dinner? Now, we wouldn't say as your dinner in English. We would say, that's where the other translation of for comes in. What'd you eat for lunch or breakfast or dinner? Like that. 저는 오늘 아침으로 팬케이크를 먹었어요. 저는 점심으로 케이크 먹고 저녁으로 피자를 먹었어요. Very unhealthy. You had pancakes for breakfast, cake for lunch, and pizza for dinner. But really, still, again, what you're saying is, I ate pizza in the role of dinner. Like, pizza was taking the role of dinner. Cake was taking the role of my lunch. And pancakes were taking the role of... So, you see that it's not really... it doesn't translate so nicely if you think of it like that. But it's the same overall meaning. It's the same literal usage. It's used for a role. Some sort of role, job, position, like that. So really, this is the most common way you're going to see it. There are other ways that you'll see it as well. Like maybe in the role of, like, for my thesis paper in college, right? In the role of my thesis paper in college, I'm putting something in that role. I'm doing something. You can use it in a lot of ways, but I'd say the most common ways you're going to see it are for a person, like actually someone's job or position. And then next is going to be these sorts of things like for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or maybe brunch, or like ajom would be like brunch, or maybe for like yashik, like a midnight snack or something like that. Food is a really common way this gets used too, but it's any sort of roll. Maybe you ate a roll for breakfast. 아침으로 빵 먹었어요. I ate bread for breakfast. Maybe it was a bread roll. Okay. Let's see. Let's do one more example of that. Oh, it actually cuts off. Let me write this a little bit higher so you can see it. This all got cut off. Okay. Right up here. Okay. So, 친구에게, so to my friend, 돈, money, 돈을 선물. 선물 is a gift. So, 선물로 줬어요. So I gave money to my friend as a gift. Again, in the role of a gift, like taking the place of a gift. Kind of think of it like that, taking the place of. It's actually not a bad translation. When it's used with a noun, you can kind of translate it as like this, taking the place of. So before with like breakfast, taking the place of breakfast, I ate pancakes. Taking the place of lunch, I ate cake, like that. In this case, taking the place of a present, I gave my friend money. If that helps you think of how it's being used with nouns. Okay, I'll leave this up for a minute. I just wanted to make sure I give you enough examples so it's clear. Hopefully that helps. In the role of a gift, yes. Zach says, how many hours should I put daily to learn Korean as a Pole? Does being a Polish person have different requirements for language learning? I think 여기에 한국어 학생으로 왔어요. 여기서 학생으로서 있어요. I'm here as a student. In the role of a gift, it seems this uro would soon become tedious after writing by hand. Like, ugh. Oh, okay, I'll give you a tip with that. Keith makes a good point. So, you saw me writing really messy when I was writing the uro before, and I apologized for it. But really, I'm not sorry. That's how I normally write it, and that's how you should write it. But I don't like writing it that way for teaching it, because especially since this is kind of like beginner intermediate territory, not everyone I know is able to read like fast Korean handwriting, but I will show you the secret to writing the lir. So we're going to talk about this letter for a little bit. This letter is called lir. I even wrote it like kind of fast. Anyway, this letter, lir, is called lir. Here's how you write it. This is important. You write one stroke that goes like that, the second stroke that goes like that, and the third stroke that goes like that. You might think, well, duh, Billy, I knew that. So many people do this. That's not how it's written, except in certain handwriting styles where they're trying to do it stylistically. They might do that. Like, 한국말, like they'll write it like that. Some people write it like that if they're really rushing or they really want it to look like that. But most people don't do this. This is not that common. It's not the fastest, and probably is the fastest way to write it. It's not the most common way that I see people write it. More common is people will actually keep the stroke order, but they'll do it without lifting their pen from the page. So I want to show you. So what did I say the stroke order was? It's 1, 2, 3. But what if we don't lift our pen from the page when we're writing this? What would happen? Well, you might think we get something like this, right? I just did it, right? I'll do it one more time. Right? That's what you get. But no one's going to do that because that's really hard to do, right? It's easier just to take your pen off. But what if you do this while you're not focused on keeping your pen on the surface. Your focus isn't on that because you're not really caring about that when you're writing. What you're caring about is just, I need to make sure I do this motion, and this motion, and this motion. That's what your brain is thinking. That's what a Korean's brain is thinking when they're writing this. They're not thinking, I need to keep my pen on the page so I go fast. They're not thinking I need to go fast necessarily, unless they're going fast. What they're thinking of is I need to do those motions. So 1, 2, 3. So what's the fastest, easiest way to do these 3 lines? Why don't you try it? Put your hand on a paper. Remember, you're doing this, and you're doing that. Don't stress so much about where the lines, like exactly where it starts or where it stops or anything. Don't stress so much about it being like a 90-degree angle or a super straight line. Don't stress about anything. The only thing you're stressed about, again, you're a Korean. Close your eyes and imagine you're a Korean for a second. You're only trying to get this, and this somehow together as easily, as lazily. It doesn't necessarily have to be lazy, but with as little energy as possible. So what do? You do that. You do that. You do that. And if you do it, actually, you end up with kind of like this because you're thinking of doing your like lines like that, but you just give up in the middle of the second line and you can just kind of give up and make it a little line there. So sometimes I see people do this, but you won't see so many people do like an actual Z because that's not what they're thinking in their head. They're thinking of these 3 lines that they're still making. They're just doing it all at one stroke. So you end up with something that looks kind of like that. And it depends on the person. Some people write it a little bit differently. Maybe they'll push their hand down more on the beginning or the end. So you can end up with slightly different shapes. Let me try that. See if I put more force on the end, you can get like a flatter end or like a bigger start or something like that. You can get a shape like that a lot. So I like doing like an example. You might get something that looks like a twist or whatever if you go down too far on the first stroke. So what happens is, so that's the basic way of just writing the letter. But a lot of times, so you have this, oh, sorry, that was bad. A lot of times you have this letter and it actually is not by itself. In that case, like in this case of the word my, you can write it like that or you can write it like that. Either one's fine. But what if you have the example of ro, that like we were just doing? So, you do this. You're not going to want to write this either because look how hard this is. After you finish writing this thing, which already has 3 letters, now you have to find the middle. You have to find the middle of the bottom and then do that and do that. Too much work. First of all, this letter, people don't do this either. It's usually this. Or sometimes, so this, again, you're still doing the same stroke. So it's either this or what's really common is people just do this. Because they know they have to go down and they have to go left to right. So why not just connect them together? So you're left with this. I mean, if it's at the bottom of a syllable, everyone's going to know it means oh. Or what if you have a yul? Well, you can just do this because now you have a yul. Like, that's another way people do it. I personally don't do this that much, but it's totally fine. This is what I usually use, is this way. But let me show you what that looks like then. So let's kind of apply these 2 things together. Now, this marker is kind of bad. It's like not erasing completely. Let's switch to a different marker. Okay. So we're doing this again, blah, 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 blah. And now we go down. So I didn't wait until I got to the middle because I don't care. All I'm thinking about as a Korean, and you are too, is I got to go up to down. So why do I need to find the center? I'll just go down from where I am and I'll, go down to an angle. That way I get to the center. But look, now I'm already down here. All I got to do is go to the right and I'm done. Or if you want to do it a little bit better, you could do like that, and you can go to the, you can properly at least go all the way to the left and then complete it. So you're left with something that either looks like this or looks like this. Sorry, this is bad. I shouldn't have that bump there. Kind of like that. So you can have either that or like that, depending on how you want to do this letter. Again, it's this letter that you're doing with either of these. Whether you want to actually go to the end or if you just kind of want to give up and go to the right. So when you put it all together, again, this, when you have this, you're not going to do this. So if you see someone do a Z, again, it's only in that case where the letter is at the bottom of the syllable. That's the only time where you can write it like a Z. And that's because you choose to do it that way stylistically. It's many Koreans like that. But I think I see more people still do it where they do the whole leer. Like they might go a little faster. But I see a lot of people, sorry, I know I'm drifting a little bit farther off from what it should look like. But I see a lot of people just kind of doing it the proper way, this really fast. But you can't do this when it's followed by another vowel because you can't just do, this looks horrible. This looks cursed. Honestly, this looks cursed. I've never seen a person write this before. This looks intentional, like really bad. Don't do this. But what you do get, again, let me try to, you get something like that or that. Because again, I'm thinking I want to get that stroke. I want to get that stroke. I want to get the next one. I need to go down top to bottom and then I need to go left to right. And you just put it all together without taking your hand off and without too much energy. So you end up with something that looks like that, or maybe that's kind of hideous, but. So you can do ro or ro, whatever you want, or maybe some, you know, people just do that. Like they don't go all the way, they don't go this far, but they'll just go a little bit because it's easier. Anyway, that's the lir letter. And I think if you want to write it more like a Korean, so the first tip I give you is follow the stroke order because Koreans are thinking about it. Even if they're not, even if you break the stroke order, you know what it is. At the end of a syllable, it's safe to do this. Again, don't do a Z. No one does a Z. What you're still doing is you're still doing the stroke order, but you just kind of pretend the middle line didn't exist. So you're still doing this and you're still doing this, but this one is just, it's missing an action. And then if you think about that, you'll end up with that. And that'll still look like a lir. People will still read that. This looks like you're writing a Z or something. It looks weird. So don't do it with sharp edges. At least still do this. That's kind of like an abbreviated version of it. And you can do that for ro as well. But again, never do a Z. That's not what they're doing either. So anyway, hopefully this kind of helps. I'll give you some tips for writing a little bit more like a native writes it. Not all the letters have tricks like that because most of them are just so simple, but because that one has a lot more strokes, the letters that have 3 and 4 strokes to them have shortcuts. And the ones that have 1 or 2 usually don't. They're going to be simpler. Hey, Kai. Yeah, it's just a surprise live today. And I should add a disclaimer that I don't have the nicest handwriting in the world. In English, my handwriting is not that nice. But in Korean, because I keep the stroke order when I write, people tell me I have nice handwriting all the time. Like, wow, Billy, your handwriting's nicer than mine. Like, okay. I have bad handwriting, but thanks. Just because they're surprised that I know the stroke order. That's really all it is. It's just, you know, if you just keep the stroke order and you don't go all over the page, you're good. You don't have to have like beautiful cursive to write nicely in Korean. And just to prove that, like I said, my handwriting in English is not the best, but it looks nice in Korean just because I keep the stroke order. It was really hard to recognize handwriting at first. Yes. This looks like a cho. No, and other letters have shortcuts too. I mean, we could talk about them if you want, but a lot of other letters also have like shortcuts or alternate ways to write them quickly. The most famous ones, I would say really quick, are piup, which I did talk about this last Sunday, so I won't go over this again. Piup, That's a common way. I write it like that. But another one that a lot of people get confused over is this one. This one. What is this letter? You know what this one is. This is the mium. But the same thing applies. All the tips I gave you apply here. Pay attention to the stroke order. 1, 2, 3. Now, don't take your hand off the page and just relax your hand. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now you're still trying too hard. Now pretend you don't care. Pretend you care less. Okay, you don't necessarily even have to keep your hand on the page the whole time. It's just you don't care about it looking nice. You just need to follow that stroke order. So 1, 2, 3. Like, oh, sorry, I let go there. 1, 2, 3. So you end up with something that looks like 12, or if it's connected, it looks like an R. Most of the time, it'll look like an R because it'll be connected here. Because they're doing 1, 2, 3, but the last stroke they're not bothering to let go because it's easier. So you end up with this thing that looks like that. Sometimes I see if I can write it really bad. Yeah, there you go. Okay. But that's it. Anyone would see that and they're like, oh, that's a mium. Billy, why'd you write it like that? It looks disgusting. I don't see anyone ever write it like this because it takes a lot of effort. Sometimes, if they want to write it really nice, there is something I do see people do. And they shrink it. It's like this is a very advanced technique. So normally it would look like this. If you're writing it quickly, it looks like this. But some people want to write it a little faster, but they don't want it to look like a blob or like an R. So what they do is they shrink it. First of all, if you shrink it, then people can't really tell so much they can't tell that you made it into an R, and it ends up looking kind of like this, kind of like a small, like a squished thing like that. It looks like an upside down rounded triangle. If you've ever seen a letter that looks kind of like this before, it's this. That's all they're doing is they're just shrinking it. So sometimes they'll shrink it really small. And I've seen some like celebrities do this before in Korea. They shrink it like really small. Just so that they keep the stroke order. It still can be identified as the character. But now it almost looks like the iang. It almost looks like the ball letter. So sometimes I'll see, like, if I read letters from K-pop celebrities and you could see little tiny round dots, and you can see, like, for example, they'll write like sarang, like that, sarangheyo, and then they're like, what the heck is that? That's their iang there. But then they might do like many saram. They might do like something like, actually, they won't even do that little line there. They'll just leave it like that. Sometimes they'll do it really small. So if you ever see something that looks really small and like the circle, but it's squished on the bottom, that's what they're doing. It's not this letter that's squished. People don't squish this because this is always done with one stroke. So even if you do it up like this, it'll always have this dot, this like line going over it. It's not possible for this to look the same as this because this is always started and stopped from the top. So you always have a remnant of the start and stop at the top of that one. So even if someone writes this dot really small, it's still distinguishable from this because this will have the bottom that's like flat, kind of almost like a heart sometimes. In fact, some people do write it like a heart just to be cute. So yeah. That's another pro tip. Kind of looks like a candy corn. Anyone likes those? Get out. Those are disgusting. I'm just joking. You can stay. As long as you don't like circus peanuts. You gotta go. I'm sorry. The old shield. Well, the old shield would be a triangle standing up, though, not the upside down one. Although, actually, thinking about it, I don't know how to write the old ones. I recognize it immediately. I'm pretty sure it's a regular upward triangle. Unless you're talking about the Z letter, that's different. Yeah, I'm glad. I'll just say I'm glad that Hangeul advanced to what it is today, because the original way was really difficult. Edible packing, yeah, same thing. Flavored packing peanuts, candy corn slander. Kai, I'm not a fan of candy corn, but it is useful for sticking in your teeth and pretending that you have fangs, and then spending like a whole minute removing it because it like glued itself to your incisors. I support that. What about here? This is not what the lesson was supposed to be today, but I'm okay. Here is, again, 3 strokes. 1 that goes down, 2 that goes across, and then 3, which is the same as the iang. So I did this just to show you where it starts. You don't do it like that. You just do it like this. So 1, 2, 3. But this first one is supposed to imitate a brush stroke. So you have people writing it like this. You have people writing it like this. And you have people writing it like this. Completely like angled, vertically, and horizontally. They're all okay. So you can have a hiat that looks like this. Hiat that looks like this. Hiat that looks like this. Or, you can have a small one. Hiat. They're all the same. Hiat. Doesn't matter how you want to write the hiat. Pick one. It's all the same. I find that a lot of people who do like penmanship in Korea tend to pick this one because it's what's the word? What's the 대칭? Not parallel, but symmetrical. Because it's symmetrical, a lot of people like picking this one. It just looks stylistic. Personally, I use this one. I use this one most of the time. Like this kind is how I usually do it. Doesn't matter. There's no benefit to doing one or the other. It's just whatever font you want. Again, it's the same thing though. Stroke 1, stroke 2, and stroke 3. In stroke 1, you can alter. Do you want it to have this angle, or this angle? Oh, and we're not done though. So that's just the stroke order of it. But then your question can go a little bit farther than that, because we were talking about not just stroke order. We were talking about how people actually write it, right? So how would someone do this? Let's just do this. Let's just do my way. How would someone write this if they want to do it quickly? So I got to do a stroke here. I got to do a stroke here going this way. Something down like that. Something like that. And then I have to do something like this, right? So how do I do that quickly? Well, let's try it. You can try it yourself as well. How would I do this? Again, I'm a native Korean and I'm just trying to write something really quick. I want it to be legible, so I'm going to follow the stroke order. That way it's legible. But I don't really care as long as it's legible. You can get something like that. Now, it's not going to look that neat because, again, they're not holding their pen to the paper and doing it perfectly. They're going to do it like this. Actually, they probably won't do the swirl. I'm just doing this. Probably not a good example. They'll go up to make the circle. I did it as kind of like a swirl, which looks weird, but something like that. Something like that. You do it from the top. Maybe like that. If you connect it, it's going to have kind of like that connection thing there. Now, this is not going to be a really strong line all the way around because mostly people aren't writing with markers. They're writing with regular pencils or pens. So it'll only show where they push their pen hard enough and the rest of it will be really thin. So usually what happens is they'll kind of relax their hand a little bit on this part and you'll end up with something that kind of looks like this. Like it goes down and you can see it connects, but that's where their hand wasn't fully pushing, was on that part. But this is kind of what they're doing. This is the shape that they're making. In fact, all of the tricks, with the exception of the piup, pretty much all the tricks for writing stuff quickly are made from just following the stroke order, not taking your hand off the page, and doing it quickly. Like, how can you exert less energy to write this? Well, I can do it like this. Like, Hangeul. I wrote kook here, so kook. But if I do it without taking my hand off, like that, I go down and then go to the right and down, make the kiyuk. And this, you might think I'm exaggerating. This is normal. This is like really common that they'll do this. This looks ugly, I'll give you that, because I'm writing sideways on a board, but that's how you can expect to see it. And the more you practice writing yourself, the more of these you'll learn, because there are a lot of like specific combinations. Like, I think a really common one. Oh, okay. This letter, A. Let's say we have this letter, K. Like 에게, I'm writing 에게 to someone, like 친구에게, to my friend. Well, I can do this and save an extra stroke. Instead of doing this like that, I can do this and save a stroke. But do you have to go and learn every single one of these individually and practice it? No. If you are keeping the stroke order, you're going to pick these up naturally on your own. You're going to discover them while you're writing on your own, because they're way easier. Again, the stroke order is the important part. Let's say that you are not doing K, but now you're doing K. Well, look at this. You could write K like that, but what if you just do that? So I did a kiyuk, and then I drove this through the entire thing to get to here. You are actually not following the stroke order, because this is not done in that order, but this one is done in that order. You do this one like this, and then this. So when you're writing it and you're following the stroke order, look at what you're writing. You might, if you do something enough, you'll realize for yourself that there are a lot of other easier ways to do the stuff you're doing. All of the ones like that are easy to do. Like even like this one, like how do you do this stroke? You do one there, but what if you just do this? A lot of people just do this. Like, it depends on the person. Like, it'll look nicer if you practice it than I'm doing it right here, but you get the idea. And then you can pick which ones you like. So I have my own writing style for whatever I'm writing, just because I got used to doing things a certain way. But because I'm following the stroke order, I can do anything I want, and it's my style, and people will easily be able to read it, and I can read it. But if I was just writing whatever I wanted and didn't follow the stroke order to begin with, it would be hard to read for other people, and it'll also end up looking unbalanced. So, I don't know. Is there another letter you want to go over, or should we continue the lesson? Yes, that's what mine looks like. S backward. Yeah, that's the kind of the cool thing about the Korean language, is that if you're following the stroke order, you can be creative with it. That it doesn't have to look blocky and straight. It can look really smooth. It can be really fast to read and write, just like English. Like, you can write your name like that, or you can write, right? It's the same thing. Now, English doesn't have stroke order necessarily, but we have different fonts and different ways to write your name, that if you were to write something the way you want it, it'll be totally readable as long as you're following stroke order. So that's why I always hammer stroke order so much in my videos, because this is what you can do with it. And that's why I really think you need to learn and focus on stroke order more than you think. It's what's going to help you get fast and better, nicer looking handwriting, easier for you as well to write. And Sun asks about chiet and chiet. Those also, just like the hiet letter, have this or this as your option. But then there's one more option. This or this for your bottom. You have two choices. So you have two choices for the top part. If you're doing a chiet, which is just the regular letter, you're done. But if you're doing a chiet, you can either do this like before, or you can do this. Or you could do this. Sorry, I meant to say 3. So just like here, the top of this one can also be altered, like a pen stroke, like a brush stroke. So you'll see like this, you'll see people do it like this, and you'll see people do it like this, just like here. But again, the stroke order is the exact same. It still goes left to right, in this case, top to bottom, left to right. So pick whichever one you want. And then you have 2 choices for this. This one is faster. I recommend this one. This one's faster because you can do 1, 2, and you're done. This one you have to do 1, 2, 3. This one's also much less common. I don't see this one outside of like computer fonts. Yeah, I don't see this one outside of computer fonts, but you should still know it because you'll see it in computer fonts and like book fonts sometimes, but you're not really going to want to write it this way very much. But just if you know, it's the same thing. Essentially, what this letter is another letter with a line on top. It's the shield letter. It's this, shield. Now you can have shield written like this, which also no one's going to do this outside of a computer font, but people will write it like this. Like if you say 사람, like 한국 사람, ha, look how it's like this. Like almost half of it is just sticking off the top. There you go. Just stick a line on top of a shield, and now you have a chiet or a chiet if you add this to make it into a strong consonant. So let's get rid of this one because I said this is really just used in computer fonts and stuff, but we still have 3 choices. We can use this one, or this one, but in all of them, it's the same how we write it. So let's just say we do this one. Okay, now we have to go here and down, and now we have to go here. So 1, 2, 3. How can I do that really fast and with less energy? Again, I'm going to follow the stroke order, but I want to do it faster and with less energy. So 1, 2, 3. Look at this. That's a common sight in fast handwriting, is to see a curl to get to there. Now, not everyone does it this way. People might do it like this. They might just let go and do it. It depends on the person. Again, this is up to you. You get to pick, which is the cool thing. You can choose, how do you want to do it? What looks good to you? Personally, I like letting go. I do this fully. But if I'm writing something for myself, like no one else is going to see it, I do this. You might see this. This is fine too. And if you put a dot on, now you have a chiet. So like if you want to say like 발로 탔어요. Like they kicked me with their foot. Notice I also did this with the shield as well. Shield, like that. At the bottom, 탔어요. These are very small of this, what I'm doing. Same thing. You could also do, I also see people sometimes do this. They just do like that or whatever to shorten their double shield. I've seen that too sometimes. Anything you want for that is fine. Again, the point is that you're following the stroke order. I'm happy to go over any other letters you want, but hopefully that kind of gives you something to get you started to figuring it out. And then you pick, how do you want to write it? How do they type in a keyboard? You get the IME, the Korean IME, which is just something you can install on your computer or your phone easily. Talk to Me in Korean has a book on cursive. Yes, they do have the, I believe you're talking about the Hangeul Master, that book. I don't own it, but I think I've seen it. I do the first one and almost combine it into one stroke. I write "sio" like an upside down V. You don't want to do that. Although I have seen some people do that. I think it's not so good because it doesn't follow the stroke order. So it makes it a little bit harder to read when it doesn't follow the stroke order. But some people do that. As long as you know that it's wrong and accept that it's your style, then you're okay. Like I said, before with the lir, how you could write it as a Z, just know that it's your style and don't think that that's the regular way to write it. And you can do that. Just accept, like, that's how I write it, and it's cool. Okay. I was supposed to do more of this lesson about ro, but there's not really much time left. Let me see. Can we do one more? There are a few more. I do want to do one more. There's another, I mean, there are a few more, but I'll just do this one more because there are a bunch more that are a little less common. Another one is uro. Again, same thing, but it's used to mean into. By into, it doesn't mean like you're going into something, but it means changing. Changing to something. Changing to or changing into something. And this one, though, is kind of easy because it's only used with a verb that means change. I think if you were to see this in a sentence, even if I didn't teach you this, you would still be able to figure out what it means. Something like 변하다. Oh, I just did another shortcut. So 피읍, 변 normally is 여, but when I do this to make my P anyway, it can flow into the 여 letter. So I can do 변 like that. There's another shortcut too. That's just what I do. So you're going to see it for verbs like to change. Maybe like 바뀌다. Or like 바꾸다 for to you are changing something. What was I trying to write here? 변하다, like something transforms. There are a few others like this, but something changes into whatever noun you put before it. Like maybe like 사자로 변했어요. Like they changed into 사자, into a tiger. 변하다 is like to transform or to change into something. So for this one, I think it's best just to memorize it as like 으로 변하다 or like 으로 바꾸다 or 바뀌다. It's not going to be used outside of that so much unless it's in context. Like then it transformed. 뭘로요? Into what? Like with the context, it doesn't have to have the verb in the sentence, but it'll always have that verb in the meaning of it. So you might also see it for this. Another really quick one, I'm not going to give you examples because we don't have any more time, is due to. So like due to the whatever, any noun it comes after, like 사자로, due to the lion. But this one also is used as like other grammar forms together. So I wouldn't worry about this for right now. I have a separate lesson about like 으로 인해, 으로 인하다, which is like a to be due to something on my live stream. So you can search 인하다 on my channel and find another live stream about that if you want to learn. So that's enough for this. I'll hang around. We'll take a few more questions before I go off for today. But I didn't want this to be too in-depth. Just kind of like another fun review of some of the most common ways that uro gets used. I've seen people do the upside down V when is 시옷 as a 받침. Yeah, people will do like Z's, upside down V's. They'll do U's for some stuff. But again, that's their style that they're doing. I would not do that on a test. I wouldn't do it for a class. And the reason you can get away with that sort of thing is because all of the rest of your stuff is still going to be following the stroke order. So I guess I can give a quick example. If you're writing like this letter, like I said, is the shield. Well, some people, you could write it like this, but it's really rare. Some people might just do this to save time. That's okay if you want to do that. But the rest of that sentence, the rest of the syllable and the rest of the letters in their sentence are not going to be all like that. Like they're not just going to do this. Like they're not going to, I'm trying to do like an example of like 한국어. Like they're not going to do everything. 한국, let's try this. 한국. Wait, we have to do it the upside down way you said. So like this. Ha, la, like they're not going to combine everything together. there aren't like shortcuts for every letter that you want to put in the sentence. Like, if you learn that there's a shortcut for something, please don't just think, oh, that's how the natives do it. I'm going to make sure I write all of mine like that. Oh, that's another shortcut. I'm going to write all of mine like that. Because you're going to end up with some hideous abomination that looks like this to say, Hanguk saram. Like, you might meet someone who writes this letter like this, or this letter like this, or this letter like this, or this letter like this. This one's fake. I just made it up. I guess you could do this. Yeah, you could do this for kuk. You could just do technically, you could do that. Kuk. Oh, it looks horrible. But you could meet someone who does like quirky things for specific cases or specific letters, but they're not going to do every letter like that. With exception of freaking Jongho from ATEEZ. Check out his handwriting. That's an exception. But usually people will keep the like quirky letters they have to like one or maybe two in their sentences. So you might see that they write all of their this letter like this, or all of their this letter like this. Sorry, they still wouldn't do like a Z again. Like I said, they would do it kind of like that. But they're not going to do like everything like that. So pick which ones you like for your writing, but know that they're supposed to all follow the stroke order. So if you want to be like, you're not sure, follow the stroke order. After you've been writing enough and you follow the stroke order enough and you're like, you know what, I can write. I want to add a little bit more personality to my writing because I'm able to express myself now. Then you can say, you know what, I don't like how I write. That letter takes way too much effort. I'm going to write it this way because I know that it's still legible, because I know the rest of my stuff is still legible. Then it's okay. When you're at the point when you can read your own writing and other people can read your writing clearly, then you can be a little bit experimental because you don't have to worry about them misreading it. But when you're doing this kind of stuff, yeah. Yeah, it kind of looks like hieroglyphs. You can do this with like Hanja. Hanja's kind of fun to do this stuff with because Hanja has so many letters in it that you can get really creative with how you do those strokes and it's still legible, kind of. And if it's not, well, then they must not know Hanja well enough. Like, it's okay to mess up stuff with Hanja, the Chinese characters, just because there's so many strokes, so it's easier to read. But Hangul is just so simplistic that you really have to be careful and just don't oversimplify things unless, again, you've seen other people do it. And then still don't do it until you're confident in your writing enough that you know people can read it. Then go, feel free to do whatever you want. Go have fun at that point. Okay. That's it for today. I don't want to go too long. It's just a bonus live. We'll do a actual live lesson this coming Sunday again. Take care, everyone. And I will see you again on Sunday. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.